What's up, YouTube? Today's project is we're going to be making a heavy-duty bat wing like hoe. This stirrup hoe I have right here works pretty well for the smaller stuff, the weeds just beginning to emerge, but I would classify this myself as more of a light-duty weeding tool. I need something for those bigger weeds that are a little more stubborn. So that's going to be the project for today. Thank you and follow along. These are the materials we're going to be using. We have a 1/4 inch thick, old rusted out flat file, 3/8 round stock. Mind you, this is all scrap metal. We're going to be using, this is 3/16, or you could probably get away with a 1/4 inch thickness angle iron. We're not going to be using the angle iron itself. We're going to be cutting a section out of the flat portion. That's what we're going to be using. If you have flat stock that's about 3/16 thick to a 1/4 inch, that will work just fine. And a old wooden axe handle. You can use an old wooden broomstick handle, a branch, anything you got on hand. This is what we're going to be making the hoe actual head out of. It's rusted up and to the point to where it's not really removing any material when I'm using it on other projects here at the house. So this is what we'll be using. First thing is I'm going to use the angle grinder, and I'll probably use about 4 to 5 inches off this end of the file. I'm going to clean it up to where it's smooth, and then we will move on from there. We now have the section cleaned up that we're going to be using for the hoe. I recommend before you cut it off using a cutoff wheel on the angle grinder that you start forming the edge, the bevel on one side that you're going to be using as the working edge for your garden hoe. And then after we have that bevel, sharp edge formed, we'll then cut it off from the rest of the file and move on to the next step. As you're grinding your edge with the angle grinder, make sure to dip your metal into water. You don't want to get it too hot to where you start getting the blues, purples, and browns, those tempering colors. So at this point in time, this file still has its hardness, and if we overheat this metal on the file through grinding, it'll ruin the temper and it won't hold an edge as long as it should when we're using the tool in the garden. Now that we have the bevel just about finished, we're going to take the cutoff wheel on the 4.5 inch angle grinder and remove this section, finish off sharpening the side that we cut, and then we will attach the round stock to the center of our working piece, and we're going to form it like a swan's neck, which is going to go to the wooden handle. Now that we finished putting the edges on all 3 sides of this hoe working head, we're gonna start prepping our 3/8 round stock. We'll use the cutoff wheel, cut off this not so clean edge so we have a nice flat clean edge to work with, and we're gonna bend it into a half circle or about that shape, and then from that half circle we're going to straighten out the rest of the bar, and that will be I believe is what's called a swan's neck style hoe, and then we will weld this round stock to this cutting edge. This is what we're going to use to bend this 3/8 round stock. We have this hole in the table right here. I'm going to stick one end inside of the hole, take this pipe, slide it onto this other end, and then I will bend it into a half circle, and we'll go from there. Now that we have our 3/8 round stock bent to the desired shape, we are going to go back to our angle iron and cut out a flat section around 4 to 5 inches long, which we're going to weld to this portion of our round stock, and then on this edge, on this side, we'll be welding our working tool to that side. I got the angle iron, I took some soapstone, and I roughly marked out the portion of the angle iron that I'm going to be cutting out with the cutoff wheel. We just cut out that section of angle iron. Now we're going to clean it up. We will take a punch, mark 2 holes roughly about 4 inches apart, and we will drill both of those holes. Once that is complete, we're going to start assembling the tool itself. We switched from the grinding wheel, and now we have on a 80 grit Tiger Paw. We're going to be using that Tiger Paw. We're going to take off all the mill scale and rust, so we have nice clean metal that we're going to be using the welder to weld together. Now that we have that piece of flat stock that we cut off of the angle iron all cleaned up, we're going to take our punch and punch a hole about right here, and then 4 inches apart another hole right here. We'll then mount it inside of the drill press and drill those holes. Now that we have everything cleaned up, the holes drilled, all the metal prepped and ready for welding, we're now going to hook up the welder. We're going to be using 6010. We're going to weld this round stock to the cutting tool that we made from the old rusted out file. Right, we got that piece of file welded to the 3/4 inch round stock, cleaned up, Tiger Pod, so that it has a nice smooth transition going to the working blade. Now we're going to take that piece of flat metal that we drilled holes in and attach it to the other end of the round stock. We now have that drilled piece of flat metal attached to the round stock, leading to the file we turned into a working edge of a hoe. You may be wondering why I just don't go to the store and buy a garden hoe. Well, the last time I was there, all they seemed to have in stock was what I consider a cement mixing tool. And not only that, what they did have in stock said cement mixing tool that they list as a garden hoe was ridiculously overpriced. So I figured, why not make something that's going to last my whole entire life, that's going to be a quality tool. And yeah, it led me to this. So here we are at this piece of wood that we're going to be using for the handle. It has a big crack here at the end. That doesn't need to be that long, so I'm probably going to take a handsaw and a couple inches past where this crack stops, I will cut it right there, and then we will sand what's left with 100 grit sandpaper and prepare it to be, for this to be mounted onto this handle. We have our handle sanded down with 100 grit. On our handle, we also shaved a flat spot so we can fasten our tool to the end. Now we're gonna hold the hoe end on the end of our handle, mark our holes, drill them out, and then fasten it to the stick. We finished sanding the handle we're going to be using. We found some fasteners, 1/4 inch, which is what we drilled those holes to inside of this flat piece of metal. Attached it to the handle. Now we're going to take the cutoff wheel on the 4.5 inch angle grinder, cut off the excess threading that's sticking out. Then lastly, we'll get some boiled linseed oil and coat the whole entire handle and the whole metal working tool itself. Then we'll give it a try and we'll see how it works. Give it a nice generous coating. This old axe handle we're using is extremely dried out, so it's going to probably soak up quite a bit of this boiled linseed oil. This is the first try with the new tool. Excellent. Wow, I couldn't be more pleased. This is no work at all. Yep, works exactly like I was hoping it would. Even better. Thank you for following me along. Please like and subscribe. I'm fairly new at this video editing thing, so stay tuned, and the videos to come will start getting better and better. Thank you.